So I now have a few questions for the panel. What, in your view, is the collective conclusion of these reports, and what additional information might be useful, and who could produce this data? Who would like to go first? Stamatiki?
I think the reports are all coming to the same conclusion, so it's great to have concrete facts from different sources that this is what the mapping and what the problems are. It's very nice to see that from the team in Austria that they're actually including the patient's voice. I think that's important. And the manufacturers and the innovators and the notified bodies. I think that the data is there. The challenge is how do we use the data that we have collected? And what is EY going to do? I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot now. But what is EY going to do with the data? What is, what are we going to do with the data in order to actually next year in October meet again and say, look, these steps have actually been, this is how we've progressed. It's a philosophical open question to everyone, I think.
Jake, would you like to comment?
Yes, of course. We are collecting the data for the European Commission. So the question is, what is the European Commission going to do with the data? Unfortunately, we cannot do anything with them. That's a relevant point, I think. Yeah, the data are there now, which was really important to do this data collection, because without the data, it stays with rumors and it stays with, anecdotal information. And it's so crucial to have these data collections there, and it's interesting to see that actually findings are corroborating between our data and the data collected by the colleagues in Austria. So it gives really an important input to the Commission, because the Commission really works evidence-based, and if we don't have this evidence, they can't further do anything about it. So it's a first step, and I think the Commission really has some ideas in their mind already to take some further steps on this. But I cannot speak for the Commission. That will be for this afternoon, I think.
Yes. Are you having any dialogue as you go along about the outcomes so far that you have? Are the Commission keeping in touch? Are you giving them interim reports?
Yeah, we're almost weekly in touch with them to give updates on what we are doing and to make sure that in line with their expectations. So yes, that's
yes, because it's very high on the Commission's agenda to look at the competitiveness of the industry and over-regulation, and to consider new or revised regulation as we go forward. So all of this is incredibly strategic.
Yeah, definitely. But the core why these regulations have been put in place is patient safety, and that's the element we need to keep in mind. Of course, competitiveness is important, innovation is important, but the core element the Commission is watching over is patient safety. You cannot rush into bringing products to the market without having this certainty. So, of course, they are asking for that certainty from manufacturers. And in the long run, I think this will only bring advantage to the EU, basically, because the quality will be there and the trust in EU products will come. Of course, now we're in this transition phase and it will take time, but in the long run, I think this is, and that's purely my personal opinion, I think this is the right step to take.
Thank you for that. Do we still have Friederike and Nina online?
Yes,
great.
we are here.
Hello, there you are. Sorry, I'm sat at an angle where I can't see you very well. But would you like to answer this question as well?
Yes, of course. So many thanks to all the points already mentioned. So I would like to add that in general, it's so important to support implementations or changes with data collections to have a very good basis to take decisions. So our data has also contributed to the extension of the IVD deadline, for example. So this is a main impact, and our data are used. And yeah, and maybe I would like to add that it's also important to have this. It's not possible in reality to have a full picture, but our approach is to really ask all these very important key stakeholders to have a bigger picture. So we started with the notified bodies and the industry, and move on with the other stakeholder groups, and yeah, to support the European Commission in the decision taking. And it's also interesting for the industry as well, I would say, and all the other stakeholder groups as well. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, do you think that there is any additional information that might be useful?
Maybe we have our focus, our study focus is on the EU market. So we have not really information about, yeah, we ask for reasons why companies are not or skipping or removing products from the EU market, but we do not exactly maybe the number of companies moving to the US market. So this would be interesting to know, but it's not in the scope of our study. Yeah, and I would say the main interest is on timelines and also costs. Costs are also an important point. Timelines, costs, yeah, so, but we try to have included this data in our survey activities to have this information for all of you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you for that. And another question, how could the NoboCap community help to contribute with information and data that you might need?
Should I start already?
Yes,
yeah.
if you could, please, yes.
So, yeah, we are very happy that we have this community. So, yeah, I may ask to take part in our survey activities. So the next survey for manufacturers and authorized representatives is planned for the end of this year. So please take part in this survey. It's such a relevant information, important information. And in the last survey, we had over 600 replies. So we hope to reach this or maybe have more responses in the next survey. So if you are interested, please let us know, and we are happy to send you the survey link when we are ready.
Lovely, thank you. I've got Eve wanting to ask a question over there.
Yes, a specific question towards the plant analysis or sub-analysis for specifically the SMEs and the startups. Because I found it quite intriguing to see now that in the study from Austria, you have 70% of the respondents are the SMEs, and then you actually start seeing indeed differences in timelines. So I'm wondering, is there any plans with regard to very specific sub-analysis for this group of startups, micro, small companies, and see how they're specifically impacted? Because we got a big picture, but then the question is, okay, is it foreseen to really go into these type of sub-analysis?
Many thanks for this really important question, because we know that the main part of the industry are SMEs, and they are so relevant for all of us. And yeah, we have definitely planned to have more information, detailed information on that. But we are in the phase to draft this first survey, and all our survey activities or the survey content is discussed with the MTCG task force on certification capacity monitoring. So we are in very close, we have a lot of meetings and close communication about the content, and also in this task force, of course, the European Commission is part. So as this information is very relevant for all of us, we try to have more details on SMEs in the next survey.
Right, thank you for that. And at Ernst & Young?
Yeah, so with regard to SMEs, it's maybe interesting to inform you that we had a thematic workshop specifically focused on SMEs. We are still analyzing all the results and integrating it in the report, but that's more to come, definitely.
More valuable information then. Great. Okay, I'd like to open the questions out to the floor now. Please, could you raise your hands and say your name and where you come from when you ask the questions? Thank you. Oh.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jeffrey, head of notified body at SGS. I was intrigued a bit what you said about the investment. I fully get that picture, but I was wondering if you would also know what the impact is on the valuation of such companies, because that goes hand in hand with investment.
Great question, Karin.
Yes, of course, there is an impact of the valuation because the time takes longer, and it's also, yes, more things are difficult and more items you are unsure. The valuation is more difficult and more less is less. You cannot avoid it.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is Egbert Smit, innovator in IVD. And if I can take you back to the data shown on the completeness, or rather the incompleteness of documentation submitted to notified bodies, I was wondering whether this is an observation on the notified body side, or whether companies knowingly submit something that's incomplete in order to get some, well, maybe early feedback or so. If you could comment, anyone?
No. Yes, Frederica?
Yes, maybe can you open this slide again, so maybe it's easier for the audience, if this is possible in the technical way. So this is a question.
Sorry, Frederica, what slide was it? Do you know what number?
I think it's the, well, I'm not sure because I haven't printed my presentation, but I think maybe on page 7 or 8 or so.
Would you like to move to 7 or 8, please? That's 20.
Because this is a combined presentation, including all the slides, probably. Yeah, but now 1 or 2 slides further. Another one, and the next one. Yeah, this is for MDR. So you mean this slide, I guess? So this is a question we have included in this notified bodies surveys, where we ask for the estimated, it's an estimation, this is a very important point, the estimated percentage of submissions which were deemed satisfactory in terms of documentation, so the technical documentation provided, before undertaking the review of its content by the notified body. So this is the stage before the notified body has asked for additional information. And here you can see that, only a few of these submissions are really complete from the perspective of notified bodies. So this is really the notified body perspective. So does this answer your question?
Are you happy with the answer?
I guess.
Yeah. That sounds non-committal. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Do you need?
I can add to that if you like.
Oh, okay. Please go ahead.
Again, it's Jeffrey again from the notified body. So the data they show is actually correct. And there are 2 underlying things that we see from our side. So I'm speaking for notified body. I represent not for the others. What we see is, on the one hand, new companies with no experience, and the files they bring in are incomplete because they simply don't have the experience. We typically recommend them to work with consultants because coming to us is an expensive and long-term project. You don't want to go through that. The other thing that we see is companies with legacy devices that have not invested in upgrading their technical files, their quality management systems, and that's what we actually see and is underlying the data you find here. There's very few companies that actually have invested the right amount of time potentially money to get to that point. That's the underlying.
Okay, yes, please, yes.
I'll make a comment.
Last comment now.
In our experience, what we see, and I want your feedback as well, is that usually with the young companies, the startups, for example, or the very young SMEs who have no experience, they usually give the role to one inexperienced person, and they think that that's the solution. And that's why probably the incomplete files. I think we need to educate them that everybody in the team needs to actually be involved in this process. So it could be the product designer, it could be the QA, the R&D, because when you talk to someone in the R&D, they think that they covered the technical question, and then you try to tell them that that's very far away from what we're expecting the answer to be. So that again, I think, falls back to us, the community or the clusters or the notified bodies, the consultants, to sort of educate the really inexperienced teams that you need to be involved, the whole team into this. Is not a one-job person that they're going to take the files and we'll have them incomplete and then they'll take longer time.